All righty. Perfect. We've given it a couple minutes for everybody to get in here. Let's get this going. So most of you guys are at home. If you're back east, some of you may still be at work. Either way, we'll try to make this as quick as painless for everybody and get some good information out your way. My name is Victor De La Torre. I'm the Senior ADAS Technician here at Opus IVS. And let me just clear my screen here real quick. Give me just a second. All righty. Australia. Hello, Australia. All righty. As mentioned, my name is Victor De La Torre. I'm the Senior ADAS Technician here at Opus IVS at Huntington Beach, California. Here we occupy a nice little piece of ADAS heaven. We got a nice flat floor, some ample workspace, an array of different tools, and just various manufacturers of the equipment that we have here. We have the liberty to just explore and dive deep into just about any repair procedure and just troubleshoot for any kind of calibration anomalies. Repair procedures aren't perfect. And I know as technicians, you guys have all come across it at some point or another. So it just gives us the opportunity to just kind of dive down real deep into that. A little bit about my experience here or my background. I've been fortunate enough to just put food on the table through the automotive industry the last 21 years. I've retained a wide range of positions in the automotive industry, all from mechanical to collision and even some insurance appraisal work over the years. So I'm just really excited to just share my knowledge and just with anybody that may have any questions here. So if anybody has any questions, I would say just wait until the slide's over. Some of the dialogue may answer some of your questions, but I'll be more than happy to attend to them the best I can. With this said, everyone's going to be muted, so please use the chat as freely as you can. Again, and I welcome any and all questions. So let's just get right into this. All right, it looks like we're having a little bit of lag here on the screens. Give it 1 second. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So some of you guys are going to see these here. You guys probably just going to trigger some PTSD. Good old 3-valve Ford spark plug. I'm going to be the first one to say, boo this guy for bringing it up. I know I've busted some knuckles on these things, and it's been a headache for me to get these things out. Back in 2015, you could have mentioned ADAS. You may as well have been asking me to pull 3 of these plugs out of different banks, especially the one right back by the AC line. And, I'll hate you for it, but got to do it. Luckily, ADAS is less of a headache. So you don't got to worry about these things breaking off in cylinder walls or anything like that, or inside cylinder heads. But for the most part, it's nice and easy. So as a tech, I'm going to tell you right now, I simply refer to it as gravy work. Everybody loves a little bit of gravy work here and there. So it's clean. It's easy. The hardest part is simply understanding how it works and what to do when it fails. That's the gist of it. Everything else just falls right in place. I will admit that when I first saw ADAS, the first thing I said is, great, a step to slow down my production. And that's far from the truth. These are things that will just keep you more productive. Of course, flag more hours. I hate to say get more money out of a repair order, but these are procedures that are set in place, and we got to follow them. We got to make sure we're following through on especially on these safety components here. So, when I first started, the technology wasn't open and free as available as it is now. Now you could just dive into sites like All Data or even iCar, and you'll be able to see a lot of information there. There's even a lot of the information that's become free now, to whereas before you needed a factory subscription of service information just to be able to access it. So position statements, everything has become more widely available to help out everybody. So hopefully everybody has access to that stuff and is able to just kind of proceed with with the right information as needed. So one of the things I do want to bring up is this. Does everybody remember being green, turning your first brake rotor? Nobody was born and knew how to instantly use a brake lathe. So unless you had some sort of previous machining knowledge, someone was present to help you set up your first brake rotor. From there, everything just kind of fell in place. So just to quote one of my favorite movies, ADAS is the same, but different, but still same. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be just a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get your first one down, everything just flows nice and easy. So let's get this going. Next time we sublet a windshield out to a glass company, because I know as a mechanical shop, you sometimes have those customers that are just true and faithful to you. You're going to sublet out a windshield just because they ask you to, or perform any kind of suspension repairs or replace a condenser where the grill or bumper get removed. Just check for radars, check for cameras. If they're not disturbed or unplugged, it doesn't matter. Just check for them. There may be procedures to kind of, just dive right into that. So I know most of you guys will quickly glance at all data or any other available repair guide for, procedures that just you may not be too familiar with. So while you're there, simply check if a component that may be affected by your current repair is going to be affected. This will become second nature at some point. Just try to get the first ones down and just make it a habit to start checking for these things. On a windshield procedure, it will say if you're required to do any kind of aiming after the camera installation, make sure camera is equipped on there. So you're going to see a little camera looking like a little pyramid with a flat top on it, typically up by the rear view mirror. So just make sure they are equipped. Excuse me, give me 1 second there. But I will tell you this, if a windshield's replaced and it is equipped with the camera, snag that gravy work. I'm not going to tell you to just let go of those dollars. Just start picking up that fruit that's just falling off the trees there. If you are doing a wheel alignment or any other procedure, the same thing's going to go. On Ford vehicles, you are going to actually run into situations where just alignment alone is actually going to trigger a windshield camera alignment. So for you guys that have an alignment shop in-house or alignment machine in-house, you're letting go of a lot of work. So you want to make sure you're actually grabbing all those things. Same thing goes for a condenser replacement. It might not tell you in the condenser procedure, but any of those steps require a bumper removal. You're going to want to check the bumper removal or installation. You will find that calibration will also be required, and some will also require an alignment, a steering angle reset if the vehicle requires it, and a calibration. So all I heard there was labor, labor, labor. We're not snagging that. We're kind of saying bye-bye to all that money. And I don't know about you guys, but food doesn't land on my table for free, although I wish it did. That F-150, it's in the picture there. That customer may not want to do any body work. He just towed it into you because he wants the suspension work fixed, and that's it. He's not going to file an insurance claim. All he wants to do is just fix my suspension work, get me back on the road. I want to get back to work. Well, Ford states that the front camera located on the windshield should be re-aimed after suspension repairs or a wheel alignment. And those will actually both be happening in that repair for that F-150 there. So just keep in mind, just because that wheel's just knocked out of the area right there, you're still going to have to do some sort of procedures to go with it. There's also radar that's kind of mounted right here in this area for the bumper. You are going to have to actually perform something to go along. I'm sorry, you're going to have to perform a calibration that goes along with it. Although with the damaged bumper, it's not advised that you actually go in and do so. I'll just, primarily tell the customer, hey, you should get that radar aimed once you replace that bumper. That's going to be something for the later, for the future there. But nonetheless, just make sure, you are taking note of these procedures. Now, a lot of people ask me, when do I aim? When do I calibrate? And it's always going to vary per brand. It's always going to vary per brand. It's always going to vary per repair. It's not going to be, one size fits all. So these are the most common instances that you're going to see where a mechanical shop's going to run into the actual situations where you need a calibration or you need a certain procedure. Collision repairs will open up the door to many other instances, such as rear end collisions causing the necessity to perform front camera and radar calibrations. And yes, I did say a rear end collision. That's just exactly what the manufacturer puts out in their service guides. Various types of disassembly for paintwork can also lead to procedures, even if the panel was not impacted. So just simply removing and reinstalling a part, like a 360 camera on a mirror, will trigger a calibration. On the collision side, I will tell you, I had one shop that aligned my vehicles, one shop only. We had a charge account. They expedited my work, as they usually got 1 or 2 alignments a day from us, and they were reliable. That's exactly why we used them. I wish they expanded into ADAS, but most mechanical shops don't have abundant space for all ADAS procedures. Now, when I say all ADAS procedures, there are a lot of procedures that don't actually require a ton of space. That's what we're going for. That is the profitable ADAS where you don't need the square footage for. That's exactly what we're going to get into later on in these slides. The collision space is very ADAS heavy, and in terms of procedures that must be carried out, they're going to see a lot of them. And some of you are already servicing body shops for wheel alignments as we speak. Probably some of you actually aligned some cars today for a body shop. Cash in, and just don't let those things go away. There's companies coming into your backyard and taking that fruit from that money tree there. So if I were you, start grabbing those things, whatever you can. If you're seeing a car for an alignment, start looking into, hey, what's the criteria for this camera? What's the criteria for this? If you don't have the targets, start accumulating a list of the vehicles that you've actually lost revenue on. Once you start seeing that, hey, we should start looking into this, you're going to realize you're going to earn a nice pretty penny from it. So some of you guys may say, well, I'm not going to replace headlamps. And I'm going to say, well. You are going to replace headlamps. You are sometimes going to get some customers going to come in, hey, I got these lights on the dash. You're going to end up realizing, you know what, there's some water intrusion on the module or something of that nature. I've seen mechanical shops get that a lot through our service queue over here. We get a lot of headlamp module programming to come from mechanical shops as well. So what ends up happening is you pull out a headlamp, aiming is required. If it has a module, configuration or programming may be carried out as well. So if you're doing differential work, you will be required to do a pinion depth and backlash inspection with necessary adjustments as well. If you're replacing bushings on a worn suspension, you probably guessed it already. You're going to be doing an alignment. The point becomes clearer and clearer. There will be micro changes requiring adjustments when replacing differential ring gears, headlamps, or suspension repairs. Adverse effects will include things such as tire wear, steering pull, headlamp leveling complaints, and even humming or vibration while driving, and possibly damaging new components that were just recently installed in a differential. Some of you guys are going to say, duh, Victor, we're techs, we're not children. Understood. That's very clear. So, why even mention this? The simple truth is nearly all these services require all these procedures will instruct you on how to replace these components, but you still got to search for all the little other things that come with it. The headlamp procedure may say things like see bumper removal, see headlamp aiming, see module configuration, which now has us all playing Where's Waldo with repair procedures. My favorite, and it's never where it says it's supposed to be. Systems designed to completely stop a vehicle and prevent accidents, they're no different. They will require the same micro adjustments, just like any other component on the vehicle. They won't always trigger a warning message or display DTCs, but that doesn't mean that there's still something else that has to be done with it. When was the last time you replaced tie rod ends and you had a light on the dash that said align the vehicle? It just doesn't happen. They will go symptom-free until it just doesn't work when it's supposed to work. Surprisingly, removing the bumper for that headlamp, you're going to run into procedure for radar aiming. And after reassembly, you may have some DTCs or you may not. It just doesn't matter whether there's lights on or not. I'm just going to drive that down again. Does not matter whether you have lights on or not. You will have to carry out additional procedures for the front radar aiming on that. Now, this next slide here, I've heard this a few times. I've even muttered those same words myself. This seems like overkill. This seems like we're over repairing. It sounds like you're overcharging. It sounds like you're making this up. And, it really doesn't appear that those people that are actually there designing these new platforms and constructing new technology have ever had to pull out an SP546 spark plug and had half of it break in the cylinder head, or have ever had to actually adjust a radar that has zero access, where it just would have been a simple little hatch that they would have snapped in there that pops off like a tow hitch cover and you're accessing for adjustment. So it doesn't seem like they've ever had to think any of those things through. Unfortunately, I wasn't there when they built the car or they made the repair procedures. If I was there, there would be a foot sticking out of one of them, and we could only hope to do the same as well. I'm sure you guys on your end have been reading a procedure and you're like, who wrote this? The bare truth, we didn't design it. Those are the repair procedures in place. And the thorough documentation from tech info sites now shifts the blame on repair shops in the event of an ADAS failure. So whenever you're deviating from that repair procedure, there's a ton of literature that just kind of points the finger right back at you. You were the last to touch it, unfortunately. So, now before anyone says, this is why I'm not going to touch any safety components, I'm going to say too late. You're already doing brakes, steering work, alignments, diagnosing check engine lights, and the list goes on. Any engine performance issues will take down an ADAS system. But why, some of you may ask? That is due to poor engine performance causing low vacuum in the brake booster. Low vacuum in the brake booster is going to trigger DTCs. DTCs in the ABS, well, you guessed it, it's going to take down any ADAS system that's relying off of ABS input. So it's getting a little trickier now. So just keep in mind, if you're already messing with the components like brakes, steering work, engine lights, and other components that are just solely reliant on these modules where they take input and feedback from everything related on that CAN system, just may as well do it right. Just follow it all the way through. You know, you get blame off of you, you earn that revenue, and everything just starts going your way on it. So now, as far as technical or technician requirements go, I'm going to tell you right now, it really doesn't matter if you're the shop troublemaker that likes using the bead, tire bead seater to, you know, just sneak up on unsuspecting people. Not going to say that's something that's encouraged upon. Or if you're you know, if you're the shop ace, it just knows all your technical knowledge already and knows exactly what you're doing. It's just you know, yelling at the clowns to knock it off. Doesn't matter who you are. If you could complete a test drive after a brake job or an alignment, essentially you could carry out a dynamic aiming procedure. There's a little more to it, but I am going to get into it. The dynamic driving procedures will require proper air pressure, correct tire sizes, alignment checks if requested by the manufacturer, a brief sensor inspection, and possible leveling of the sensor. After that, simply command the learn procedure and start driving. Like I said before, this is all gravy work. I don't know about you guys, but just gravy work is just one of those things that just kind of I'll take after instead of doing a nice greasy oil pan job. Disclaimer, Opus does not condone the misuse of the tire bead seater. Okay. So, you know, just keep in mind, I got to say that, you know. Now, as far as the different types of calibrations go, we're going to get into the two main types, which is dynamic calibration and static calibration. You've heard me throw these terms around a little bit, so let's define the difference. Dynamic calibrations will require straight roads, clear conditions, daylight if aiming a camera, clear road markings for camera aiming as well, and the opportunity to drive at a constant speed. Practically all procedures will state the ideal speed and conditions for driving relearn procedures. Just try to avoid gridlock traffic situations such as rush hour or, you know, school zones when everybody's dropping off or picking up their kids. You don't want to be stuck in a stop and go situation because you're going to time out the calibration. Let me see some of these comments here. Everybody's good. Okay, go. Static procedures require a level ground, ample space, targets, proper lighting, battery maintainers. Remember, the vehicle's going to be sitting there with the key on, engine off typically. So at times, even disassembly for adjustment as well. So when thinking which one's which again, just correlate static with stationary. It's not going to move. It simply is going to stay still. A stationary target's going to be placed strategically in front of the vehicle for aiming. So static, stationary, that's the easiest way that I got around with it. Both of these procedures have the same pre-requirements in common. They're all going to need proper ride height, correct tire sizes, correct air pressure, and typically can't be out of alignment as the steering angle value is used in the majority of these systems. Yes, also dual static and dynamic. Thank you for that, Shane. That is one of those things that I'm going to actually show you guys right now in just a second, okay? So, you know, a lot of people tell me, well, hey, give me a simple list of just static procedures. You know, everyone's like, tell me. As mentioned before, we're aiming for dynamics, so you don't have any shop space whatsoever. This is exactly what we're going to aim for here. I wish there was a simple list that I can post that states all this information, but there really isn't. A simple list does not exist. It has, however, taken a team of 3 of us and months to actually research every single dynamic procedure. If I was to place the list on this and we were able to review it, how much time do you guys got? Because I would need about a couple of days to go through everything. And that's just how intense that list is. You know, a lot of companies have actually compiled this information, and we have it actually input into some of our tools. But just the list is not simple, and it's not short, and it's not sweet. So getting into it, I can, however, tell you that GM and Ford windshield cameras, adaptive cruise control radars, and some 360 camera systems are all dynamic procedures. So if you're dealing with primarily domestics, again, GMs, Fords, front radar, front camera, and some 360 procedures on the new digital systems, they're all going to be dynamic. So if you get a car from a body shop and there's 360 codes on the dash and they're saying, well, we need it aligned before we call our ADAS guy, snag it up. You're going to have the scan tools to do it. If you are Opus customers, you guys already have the capability of doing it. FCA, now Stellantis, is a split on radars, and nearly all camera procedures are static. So it's going to be a split 50-50 between whether they're going to be static or dynamic. So Toyota is starting to roll out the options of dynamic and static procedures. So for you guys that are experiencing snow on the ground and conditions aren't right to go out and drive, and you guys are getting just a severe of all weathers, I'm down here in Huntington Beach, California. I can't speak for you guys on that, but I know you guys know who you are when you're snowed in and you can't really drive the car around that much. There are hybrid procedures that are on these vehicles. So you're going to see this like on the newer Camrys and newer Highlanders. Essentially, the newer premium line and most common line vehicles are going to have this dual mode version that you can do static or dynamic. So if it's a nice warm summer day, kick on that AC, go drive the vehicle around for a while, listen to music, tell the boss, hey, I'm out here on this calibration for a while. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But essentially, if car's got a sunroof, open it up, go out for a nice little drive, take a little break from the shop. If there's snow on the ground, bad weather, you can't really do any of this stuff, do the static procedure, set up the targets and start getting everything out of the way there. If you got space for it. Honda, Nissan, Kia, Hyundai, they're all static dominant with a few scattered dynamic procedures in there. A lot of people will tell me, well, the blind spot on Hyundai and Kia is dynamic. It is, but if that blind spot radar came off, there's actually a static angle verification process where it requires the bumper removal. So essentially, if you replace the module, customer came into your shop and said, hey, I got this light on my dash after I got struck by something, blah, blah, blah. I already fixed the bumper. I can't get rid of the light. And you guys are taking on that procedure. Chances are you're going to have to check that angle on, and it does require a special tool. So even though a lot of people say it is dynamic, and you're right, the procedure itself is dynamic, you are going to have to do a static angle verification. Volvo and JLR, they're all dynamic. Volvo's going to have a special little tool to adjust the camera angle right on the windshield. And that's essentially if the windshield's been removed or replaced. But if you're doing it for any other reason, you replace the module or anything like that, chances are the camera didn't move. You're not going to have to worry about that. Volkswagen Audi group, they're all over the map. You're going to have some static, some dynamic. It's going to be a flip of a coin. You're going to have to hook up Otis and actually see if it's going to call for one or the other. Even on the newer vehicles, I've seen where I go into Irwin or I'm looking at other information and I go in there, I pull up the procedure. Cool. It's a static procedure. I got the stand here. I set it all up. I hook up Otis. I get in there. It's a dynamic. I did all that setup for nothing. So again, it's going to be a flip of a coin. You're going to have to get in there and actually check. Same thing with some BMW and Mercedes models. It's going to tell you once you go into StarTech Info or you go into Air, you're actually going to start seeing that, hook up the tool, follow the tool. That's all the instruction it gives you. And yeah, you're going to have to get in there and just see what it's saying. What's the flavor of the month today? Subaru, however, is strictly static. However, their eyesight system begins as a static and ends as a dynamic. So, Shane, that one's for you there, buddy. But you brought up a real good point on that one. These are going to start as a dual combo. They're actually going to be there. They're going to start on level ground. You're going to have targets that are set up, and it's going to end with an automatic learn adjustment. You're going to look for certain values to appear after they actually hit all their checks in their system while you're driving. So they're going to look at road signs. They're going to look at road markings. You're going to have to maintain a constant speed after you've done the static version of it. And it depends on your accuracy on it. Sometimes if your accuracy is low due to lighting, due to poor positioning, or other variables, you may end up realizing that, hey, you're going to have to drive it a little longer during that automatic function check or the automatic learn cycle. Some Hondas actually share this same procedure as well. So you will have some Hondas in some certain years where they are going to start static and dynamic. I would classify these as more of a premium calibration because you are doing both in one. So just keep that in mind. So with that said, as previously mentioned, a brief inspection or leveling of the radar sensor may be required. Simple tools that can be found just about anywhere. So go into your local Acme catalog. Just kidding. I'm just saying, just go any nearby tool section that you may find. I'm not going to name drop here, but places like Schmamazon or, Schmarber Freight, they're going to have your basic tools that you might need there. as shown in the illustration straight from Ford PTS, the flat side of a carpenter square works great as long as it has a bubble level, or also an electronic angle gauge as well. That'll do the trick. Most vehicles will have panels that can be removed in order to gain access for leveling. However, and I'm going to implement that again. However, okay, there's a look that goes with it one more time. However, Ford trim panels are notorious for being one-time use parts. The tabs simply rip off. If access can be gained from behind to undo the metal trim clips, and I'm sure you've seen those little alligator trim clips that just pinch onto the metal, the plastic part, the panel can be saved. So simply exercise caution. If you're dealing with those Ford trim panels, one of the things I could say for vehicles without access, the bumper does not require any kind of removal. I would say it's safe to go ahead. So if you just did a wheel alignment and you're doing a recalibration and the procedure calls for the radar to be calibrated, depending on what service information says, I would exercise caution, and instead of breaking a $100 trim panel, because we all know Ford only likes to produce parts for like 6 or 7 years and then discontinues them. So just, be wary about those things, because you may be breaking panels that you can't get anymore. And now you got an angry customer. And as I was mentioned, chances are if the panel was not removed, the sensor position did not change. It's just a rule. It's not a rule. It's just simply kind of something I like to go by instead of just causing more damage there. If the car was hit in the front, or it was just coming from a wreck from a body shop, definitely check that angle. So if you're working closely with body shops, you may tell body shops, hey, this is going to be a static procedure, but I need to check that angle before you guys put it together. So the cool thing is these panels just snap right on. So just simply tell the shop, don't snap that trim piece on until I look at it. All right. So for the purposes of today's demo, we're going to use a 2020 Ford Edge. So I would like to briefly go over when to calibrate on the specific vehicle. And as shown here, right from Ford PTS, calibrate when the windshield's replaced, change in tire size. Now, I'm going to say time out for a second. Change in tire size does not mean, do the Carolina squat, put some oversized wheels on there, do the bumper torque with your vehicle. I'm not saying any of that stuff, okay? What I'm saying, change in tire size. There are vehicles that do have optional tire sizes. Those diameters are programmed into the vehicles. Prior to the introduction of ADAS to Ford vehicles, you did have the opportunity to go in and change the tire diameter, tire pressure, differential ring gear ratio. You were able to make all those changes prior to the introduction of ADAS. That is no longer available. Don't believe me? Just simply next time you're in Ford service information, start looking up. And usually I think the call sign was sometime before 2014 or 2015. And then look up a newer model vehicle. You're going to see under module configuration, you can no longer change those settings. So when I'm mentioning change in tire size, that is optional tire sizes that are on the tire placard. Resuming. Suspension repairs or alignments, and lastly, front airbag deployments. And airbag deployment obviously is going to have a very good, strong percussion inside the vehicle that can change the camera position. So I would like to touch a little bit into the third one down. Why after an alignment? For that, I'm going to dive into the system diagram. So one of the things I just do want to point out in the system diagram, first and foremost, you're going to see the IPMA module on the far left in yellow. Or the image processing module A. There is an image processing module B, and that's typically for 360 cameras. Let me get a sip of water here. So you're going to notice that A, the camera windshield defrost heater is going to go right into the IPMA, and you're going to see that on the top left corner. Pause on that for a second. If you have front bumper damage and you have damage to the ambient air temperature sensor on the outside, I want to bring up one simple truth. The ambient air temperature on the outside and the ambient air temperature on the auxiliary sensor that's on the inside of the vehicle work together. If one of those is not working, it will take down the camera windshield defrost heater, which will take down the windshield camera. Resume. That feeds into IPMA. The IPMA, obviously, as you can see in that diagram, has a private CAN line that goes to the CCM. You're going to see that at the top center of that image. So the cruise control module is going to have its own private CAN. If one goes down, it can take down the other. There is a left-hand steering column multifunction switch, and that's at the very tip of your turn signal. There's going to be a little button that turns the the camera on and off. So whenever you want to activate that system on this particular Ford Edge, it's going to be on the end of that panel there. And I just do want you guys to note that it operates off of a high-speed CAN line that goes right into the power steering control module, the restraints control module, and the steering column control module, which means getting into these, this system is relying off of steering angle, turn signal inputs, the clock spring inputs, and alongside with just an abundance of other information. So there's so many things that I could actually take down this IPMA. So just because you have an IPMA message on the dash or a lane keep unavailable message on the dash, it does not necessarily mean calibrate. You typically want to follow through on the diagnostic procedures for those codes, because there can be many, many other instances. I've had instances where a body shop drops off a vehicle for a camera aiming. I can't get the camera aiming to initialize because they failed to tell me that they have a second RO where they replace the steering gear. The steering gear is not going to trigger a code on most Ford vehicles. You're not going to have an initialization incomplete code or anything like that. You're going to have codes for that. You're going to have, you're not going to have any codes for that. You're just going to have a light. Once you go into the symptom table, it's going to tell you this is a possible initialization problem. And that initialization or configuration problem is going to be directly related to the power steering control module not being configured to this vehicle yet. That is taking down the IPMA. So for you mechanical guys that are replacing steering gears, you may have already experienced that at times there is a light on the dash that's saying lane keep unavailable, see dealer, service required, etc. So you will see those come up, and those are very, very common when you are replacing these steering gears. As you guys have also seen, most of these, they take an impact, they're done. There's really no disassembling them, or they may have that plastic gear inside or a composite gear that just strips out. So most of the time you're going to have an internal fault on them. You're replacing those steering gears. Stay away from remanufactured steering gears. They are more of a headache than anything else. I know the profit margins aren't great on them, but I've seen more get ripped out than more just stay in the vehicle, take a configuration, and actually just stay permanently in the vehicle. Once the steering angle changes, so do the adaptation values of said camera. So just keep that in mind. But this is obviously straight from Ford PTS. This is not a little diagram I manufactured on my own. This came right from Ford Service Information. So before we go any further, just avoid these procedures if a windshield's cracked, there's any damage that affects the position of the component being aimed or calibrated, vehicle modifications such as film tint near the camera. I've seen a lot of cameras where they're open on the bottom, and the tint guy goes right on in there, and he likes to tuck the tint right underneath the camera. Now you got a lens that's seeing, film tint that's about right here, and obviously you're not getting a good image out of it. So just keep in mind, film tint has been a pain lately for me, simply because tint guys are slapping that windshield film tint, and they got a very uneven edge. It just goes right here. So it is going to obstruct vision or simply just not allow the camera to function the way it should. Things like vehicle lifts, oversized tires, lowering springs, again, Carolina squat, you're going to want to stay away from those. There's been a lot of independent studies that say otherwise, lifts are fine, don't you worry. None of those procedures have been approved by the OEs. So just keep in mind, there's only going to be one thing that stands behind you guys. That's following proper repair procedures. So if the OEs can't back it up, I wouldn't say that an article that you read offline is going to back you up either way. So just keep that in mind. Let me see, where did I leave off? Yes, the OEs do sell approved lift kits, but they do come with instructions for ADAS recalibration procedures. So I just want you to keep that in mind. I've seen the Ford lift kits. They have procedures in place for that. They are approved by Ford, and they do approve the sale of them. So if anything were to go wrong, they're liable for the whole thing. Toyotas. Toyotas are a little more intricate. They do have a TRD Pro lift kit. Just because someone goes out and puts a TRD Pro grill on a Tacoma, it doesn't mean that it's A-OK. Even though it's a factory part that you buy right from the dealership, if you could get the parts department to actually sell it to you, you're going to have some issues, because the TRD Pro grill has a sensor that sits about right here. From factory, without the TRD Pro grill, it sits about right here, about 2 inches higher. So you are now changing that pitch angle of the sensor. And even though the Toyota service procedure tells you to base it off the grill, The TRD Pro has a different ride height. It has a different suspension. Overall, it's just a different vehicle. Some of you guys that may have Toyota Tacomas that are TRD Pros, you guys could spot the fakes out there. They're sitting at the wrong height. They have the wrong wheels on them. They have the TRD Pro grill, but it's usually like an Amazon special that they bought somewhere. Oh, Schmamazon, I'm sorry, that they brought somewhere, or a Schmee-based special that they got off online. And typically, you are repositioning the radar, and a lot of people just do this at home. And the pitch angle changes of the radar, and now they're seeing right over the roof of that Mazda Miata in front of them. So you got to be careful with a lot of this stuff. Now, Toyota does have a service bulletin that says if these vehicles have been modified in height, stance, in any way, shape, or form, these systems are to permanently be disabled. The service bulletin has a slip that you fill out. You fill out the reason why it was disabled. It goes right in the owner's manual. And the only way to reinstate that system, you replace the module. You can find that in TIS service information. If anybody's interested there, drop me your email address, and I'll be more than happy to send that your way there. So just drop it right in the chat and just put in there Toyota service bulletin. I'll be more than happy to just get back to you guys afterwards. Okay. And how's everybody doing here? Let me check these comments, make sure there's nothing I've missed here. If it's just hanging by wiring, would it be considered to be out of spec? Just a tad bit, I would say so. I have that as exact digital angle gauge from Schmamazon. Good, Shane. All righty. So getting into this slide. So for the procedure overview, essentially you're going to complete your alignment or suspension repairs, perform the IPMA camera aiming function in the scan tool. You're going to perform your dynamic aiming drive function. And then you're going to do a thing called a function test. Well, what's a function test? You're going to want to test all these systems that go on the vehicle. So a bad radar could take down the camera system. You could turn on the blind spot and it could take down the front radar. It could cause codes in the ABS module, because a lot of these systems do have input for forward or rear emergency braking for pedestrian detection. So faults in the ABS can trigger faults in just about all the other systems, and that takes those systems down. One important thing, clear DTCs generated from aiming. And you're going to see that in this next slide. The next slide is actually going to be a nice little video there, or actually 2 slides from that, a nice little video of a quick demo. And that's it. You're done afterwards. So let's get right into that. So the next thing is plug in your Opus device and get started. So when I say plug in your Opus device, no matter whether you want to command it yourself, you need OE support, or simply just need guidance through the process, we got solutions for you. So I want you to just keep in mind, for purposes of this demo, I did use Ford IDS, just in case anybody wants to see what Ford IDS looks like. On the DriveSafe or Drive Pro devices, you're going to be able to see that you can run or command the calibration yourself. If you're having any issues, you can submit a request. Our guys know exactly what to do when they see those requests come in. And for the most part, whatever it is that you need help with, if it's even just basic setup, just let us know. We're here to help you guys. It's something we're expanding into. It's something that we got support for. So don't shy away from it. Hey, you got a Drive Pro, send in the request. We'll help you out. Okay. Now, upon placing the vehicle into alignment mode, a malfunction message should appear. It should be displayed on the dash. And so you're going to see this message here once you're commanding the learn function. And at this point, you're going to see that that malfunction message that's on the dash. Moving on from here, make sure your auto stop start features are turned off, because again, those auto stop start features can disrupt the actual aiming procedure itself. And just simply view those driving instructions that are just there on the text on the screen there. This is particular to this vehicle, but they may not always apply. But if you guys can't read all of that right now, there is going to be some input on what it really says. So here we go, guys. All righty. Tracy, you asked if there was supposed to be audio on that. Yes, there was supposed to be audio. Did everybody else get that? Shane, a good tech leaves the radio off while driving. How am I supposed to listen to Taylor Swift while I'm driving? Come on, man. Holy crap, dry roads. Yeah. Hasn't been like that for a little while around here, but thank you guys. All righty. So let me see here. Okay, perfect. So one of the things that we just want to do is why check everything else? I mentioned a function test in that audio. There's and again, I'm just going to touch on it again. Faults in other modules can take down the lane camera. So if you get any kind of bad input into the ABS and you get any trigger of a DTC, even a speed sensor could take down the lane camera. So those things will definitely take down the system. So all you really want to do is you want to actually document if anything does come up that does take down the system. Let me see. How about once more with the voiceover? Okay, sure. I could do one more for the voiceover for you guys there that didn't get to hear. I'm so sorry about that. But essentially what was going on here is there was this real boring guy. He was driving a vehicle for a little while. That was essentially what was going on with it. But let me see here. All right. So as far as driving goes, you're going to get that error message that comes up on this. The error message simply states that the camera goes down. To me, it seems like it's just a little too dumb to not know what was going on with the system. You commanded to learn. It should know that it's learn in progress. There are some manufacturers that do state there are some manufacturers that do state learn in progress, calibration in progress. Why Ford doesn't do that on some of these vehicles? Beats me. Again, if I were to design these procedures, I would have a foot, sticking out of somebody. But that's just beyond me. So I leave the message on the dash and I just leave it put, and you're going to see it there in the lower left-hand corner. The message is just going to be there. And for me, that's the finish flag. It's going to be there until the calibration ends. Once it goes away, I know that the calibration did already finish for me. So, you want to make sure that there's clean lane markings. You want to make sure that there's clear roads, as Shane was mentioning. Nice dry roads are great. If your wipers are running, you're probably going to have some issues with trying to calibrate this. So you want to wait until weather's good for this. As I was mentioning on the Toyota vehicles earlier, it's nice when they do either or, because with inclement weather, you'll be able to actually do the procedure that best fits you. This calibration itself took me 2 minutes and 29 seconds and only drove 1.4 miles. So a lot of you guys will be like, wow, really? You're going to drive that after alignment anyways, right? You're going to check to make sure it's not pulling. You're going to try to find a nice straight road. So if you did an alignment, cash in on that lane keep calibration, because you're going to knock out two birds with one stone. I performed it 2 more times. One took me 4 minutes and 2 miles of driving. The other one took me almost 6 minutes. And that just varied as traffic got heavier later on in the day. So if some of you guys are actually in an area where roads aren't great, and I know there's some shops that are just not near great roads, grab your scan tool, grab the vehicle, head to a good location where you have some good roads, pull off the road safely, plug in your tool, and command that calibration. Once you command that calibration, get on the road, start driving. Avoid heavy traffic, avoid rush hour conditions, so ideally you got to plan these out. Don't go in rush hour, because you ain't going to get nowhere. I mean, especially around here in Southern California, you guys may have heard that we're kind of known for tacos and traffic. So, those are going to be the things you're going to run into. But aside from that, just make sure you are finding good straight roads and a lot of lane markings. You want to have signs, especially vehicles that have road sign recognition. They're going to want to see the speed limit signs. If they have bullet holes in them, like in some areas that I've seen, don't worry about it. They're just looking for the text on them. Okay. So coming up on the end of the calibration, you may have seen that the message went away, and then the indicator went gray. When the indicator went gray, it just kept driving it. And then finally the lane markings went green on it. When the lane markings went green, then I knew the system was on. If it's not on, press the button on the end of the multifunction switch. That button on the end of the multifunction switch turns on the camera. If some of you guys did hit OK on that initial message and that screen completely disappeared, about every minute of driving, press that button to turn on that system. If it's not turning on, chances are it's still in learn mode. So about every minute of driving, hit that little button. That button's either going to be on the tip of the multifunction switch, on the dash, or somewhere else, typically like in the settings menu or so. So once your green lane markings come up and the system's active and you're within speed to activate it, swerve left. Try to get it to just kind of give you a warning that you're getting too close. You're going to see the lane markings go yellow. Then come back center again, make them go green, swerve left again, and try to, cross that line. You're either going to get a correction depending on the system, or you're going to get a loud flashing or a beep, 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 something that's going to tell you there that, hey, you're crossing over, get back in your lane. Turn signals are obviously going to deactivate the system. So a lot of you guys know, well, duh, we know how to use these systems, Vic. We're not kids. I get it. You're not kids. You guys are experienced professionals. All I'm saying is simply test out these systems. By testing them out, you're confirming that they are working, and now you can document that you tested it. It works fine. So later on, when that customer decides to come back and say, hey, this isn't working, and you see a brand new windshield on the vehicle, you can safely tell them it worked when it left. Looks like Safe Light replaced your windshield. They didn't calibrate the system. Not our bad. You got all your ducks in a row for when that stuff happens, okay? Now, for some of you guys, I know you guys got awesome customers, not saying anything bad about them. But after 21 years of working on vehicles, nothing really surprises me anymore. All right, going on to away from that calibration there. So why do we check everything else? As mentioned before, faults in other modules can potentially take down the lane camera. And so it's just great to document all this, that it works fine, and everything else that works alongside it works fine as well. Remember, when we were showing that diagram, it has input on that high-speed CAN system from everything else around it. So you want to make sure that you're not going to have any weird issues that come up, or any weird maneuvers that are going to trigger a wheel speed sensor or anything like that. So that's why a good long 5-mile test drive will be really good after you're done. Like I said, turn on the AC, listen to some Tay-Tay, and enjoy some sun. Open up that sunroof. Gravy work. As far as documentation goes, you could create your own template with the basic Word document or checklist. You could cater it to however you want it. Identify things such as starting and ending mileage, fuel level, air pressure values. Now, fuel level, again, some manufacturers are going to require a full tank, so just make sure you're doing your reading on it. Pictures, 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 and more pictures. That is right. Thank you, Shane, for that. Let me see where I leave off. Air pressure values. Why was the vehicle calibrated in the first place? What was it? The customer bringing in for a concern? Was it after a wreck? Did you just simply do an alignment that actually triggered that? And additional systems tested during the test drive. So you want to put a nice little blurb that I like to put in there is all ADAS systems are functioning as designed by manufacturer during the function test performed after aiming. Those things usually are a nice little ace in the hole and just kind of covers you guys on that. So when it comes to documentation, keeping stored files is never a bad idea. Save it by VIN, save it by RO, save it by license plate, or what color air freshener tree was on the mirror. I really don't care how you actually save it. Just make sure you could actually find it, when it's necessary. If your shop management tool allows you to save media, then take as many pictures as you can and just dump them in there. Okay. Just take as many pictures as you can, or any kind of PDF documents that you could take, and just dump them in there. After over 20 years in the automotive industry, I'm going to say this again, it's pretty hard to surprise me. Hence why I firmly believe in great documentation. CYA before they pay. Just one of the things I like to say to people sometimes. So you heard me just hammer down on documentation. Well, I don't have anything to document with. Well, what do I document with? So, one of the tools that we have available is Autotech Accelerators actually has features that give you all the tools to actually do your ADAS estimates, to do your scheduling for system identification, calibrations, and test drives. So what do you mean calibrations and test drives? They'll document your procedures for the calibration, what you did, anything you could put in there. They'll attach the app will attach to a little windshield stand where it'll actually document your test drive. It'll document your speed for you. So those kinds of things, those are all great tools to have while doing it. So the Auto Accelerators app is going to help you with all those. Now you see 3 different screens on there, and I just want to be clear about this. One of those screens is going to be the admin or the user side. I'm sorry, the admin or the administrator side, which is typically going to be you, the shop. The other side is going to be the calibrate side. So if your shop's requesting a calibration, it's, they're able to request it on the other end of the app. And on the other end of it, you're going to have the validation part, which is your technician side of it. So you're going to have requests coming in from the shop. You're going to have estimates that are being quoted, authorizations, notes being shared back and forth. And you're going to have a test drive and calibration function, all from different people, dumping it into one portal, which in my mind, it's easy peasy. It's great for you. All that stuff there essentially just is just compiled into one little bit of information, and it's managed off of, the thing that's attached to our hip now. So. All right, so if you have any space or you're looking to expand into the best calibration environment, you will need tools that covers your needs, okay? So when I say tools that covers your needs, there is no magic pill or tablet that's going to cover 100% of all procedures. If anyone's telling you, I got this tool and it does everything, what are they trying to sell you? There is nothing out there in the market right now that does, 100%. I'll sit here and tell you, almost all tools cover a good 80 to 85%. There will be some specialty tools. Even US technicians know that you go out and pull out your Opus device, or you go out and pull out your Snap-on device, or you go out and pull out whatever device you may have, and you sometimes still need factory software to complete certain procedures. That does not change in ADAS. So when anybody's sitting there telling you, yeah, it does everything, be wary. So what I do recommend is do an audit. If you're looking to get into a great collision space, some of you guys may be looking into actually compiling a list of things that you need to open up a separate space next to the building. Some of you may have empty lots where you could pour a nice little slab of cement and start doing calibrations there. Some of you, may want to just, move out the mother-in-law and say, I'll use this space to calibrate cars. I'm kidding. Don't do that to your mother-in-law. But whatever the case is, some of you guys are looking into actually get into calibration space to do statics and dynamics. As I mentioned, dynamics don't require any space. It's going to be the statics that are going to require it. Now, statics are bigger money. You're going to be able to collect a lot more from them. So just keep that in mind. If you got a body shop that's sending you 1 or 2 cars a day, you're going to be netting a good chunk of change daily. That's going to pay for that roof and then some. So don't sleep on that. So when you do a market check or a close all row count audit of the vehicles that you are getting, you're able to see what kind of makes and models you are getting in your area. You're going to be able to know, well, I'm mainly servicing domestics. Great. Domestics, you're not really going to invest a whole lot of money except in just maybe an Opus scan tool, some leveling tools as previously mentioned from Schmamazon that Shane said he got there. But for the most part, you're not going to find a whole lot of stuff that you're going to need there unless you're doing 360 cameras on the Ford systems for the older analog system and GM vehicles for the older analog cameras. The newer digital stuff, they really don't need the long calibration mats that go along with it. So I hear this all the time. One of the things I get is I need everything. And I'm just going to sit here and say, do you really need everything? I know certified Audi shops, or actually one in particular, certified Audi shop, collision shop. Okay. And for those of you that aren't too keen in the collision side, a lot of the aluminum body structured Audis can only go to a certified shop, which means any A8, any S6 that's on an aluminum body, they're actually going to go only to those shops. If you think that they could go to any shop, the dealer will not sell structural parts to just any shop. You have to be certified. So that's just one of the things that I've experienced from actually working in the industry for a little while. So I know of a particular Audi shop that they stay very busy and they have a ton of cars that fly through their lot every day. Okay. They've only used their night vision camera a couple times over the last few years. Not enough to pay for the tool, but they are required to have it because they are on the program. So yes, they see a lot of Audis, but the point is if you're not seeing these cars, there's no point in buying all these tools if you're not actually going to service them. If you're not seeing a whole lot of Mercedes vehicles, you see maybe 1 or 2 a year, no point in going out and buying all the European tools. Some of the nice higher end kits, they will have these tools included, but you're going to pay a pretty penny for them. So just keep in mind, it's going to come with the cost if you're not doing a repair audit and knowing what you need. Cater to your market. If you're seeing Asians and domestics, buy Asians and domestics tools. There are some kits that are going to be available. So Opus tools are getting close to release. Those will be around the corner here pretty soon. They are not currently available. So don't just, finish this webinar and get on the phone with your sales guy, be like, hey, where's those Opus tools? I need them. They are nice. You're going to see right there in the middle of the screen, that trihedral stand and those targets. That's our quality mats. They are not glary. They're not going to have a big sheen on it. So depending on your lighting, they're going to be nice and transparent, very nice, defined graphics. I've seen some that some people manufacture, and oh my gosh, they're so glossy at a slight angle, you can't see the whole target itself, and you do lose them in the camera. So sheen's going to be a very, very big thing on them. So they will be around here around the corner. So keep in mind, a nice Opus scan tool, as mentioned before, will give you the ability to get support, do the calibration yourself without any support, or if you need help with procedures or need a specialty tool like OE license. As we know, some of you guys that may be doing Europeans with component protection, you're going to need something having to do with Otis on there. So if you're dealing with component protection on certain modules on the vehicle, yes, you are going to need an Opus device for us to remote in there and do that. Follow your procedure through NASTF. Obviously, NASTF has a hold on a lot of these things here moving forward with security protocols, but you're going to have to go through NASTF. They're going to be able to submit the request to us. We'll be able to get to you when we're ready, when we receive the response and just ready to provide the service there. So as far as that goes, we're here at the end of our webinar now. I do want to address some questions. Let me see here. Ooh, we got a nice array of questions here. Estimated release date. They're going through marketing right now. We're finalizing repair instructions. Estimated release date, I can't be too sure on that, but we are going to see them, I would say, hopefully no later than summer. Don't quote me on that. Bad guy with the mustache said end of summer. Why isn't it here? Again, we're still working on all that stuff. So just make sure that you take that with a grain of salt, okay? But we are nearing the end of it. The tools are already manufactured. It's just getting into marketing and finalizing repair instructions there. But thank you. That's a great question, Tracy. All righty. So here we go. We got some questions here. Are there any vehicles that trigger calibrations after performing one calibration? I don't think I quite understand that one. After performing certain procedures, there are some calibrations that can be requested. So essentially, as I mentioned before, if you're replacing like a steering gear, you're going to have a lane keep camera message that goes down. And obviously, as we saw from Ford service information or Ford PTS, it is saying after suspension repairs or even a simple alignment. So again, if you're doing simple alignments, yes, you will have some procedures you got to do. It won't trigger them. It won't give you a message, but you got to find them. The money's there. These dealerships are charging 1 or 2 hours of mechanical time to complete these procedures. Now, some of you may go, oh, that's overkill. Not overkill. You still got to research the procedure. You still got to prep the vehicle. You still got to do anything. Just because it took me 2 minutes and 40 seconds to drive the vehicle, that doesn't mean that you completed your paperwork, you documented everything, you got everything down. Collectively, you're going to invest some time into it, and you may spend a full hour doing it. Maybe your first couple of times doing it, you may invest an hour and a half to 2 hours. If you're constantly getting pulled back and forth between a vehicle that has rotors on the brake lathe, another service you're doing another car, and then finding time to do a test drive on this vehicle, it may take you 3 hours. So just keep in mind, if you have full dedicated time to do this, nonstop from start to finish, from where you intake the car, align the vehicle, look up the procedure and everything, you may be taking close to that hour. One of the things I do recommend, and it's take it with a grain of salt. Some people may go, I don't know about that. If you can, set up your own diagnostic rate for ADAS procedures. It takes a different investment, a different training, different tools, different everything. And I have seen a lot of shops, they just simply have a different hourly rate for ADAS procedures. So just kind of keep that in mind. Maybe one of those things that kind of helps you along. For those of you going, I don't know about that. You know what? A lot of you guys have standardized pricing for brake jobs, standardized pricing for oil changes. It's not going off of an hourly rate, right? So start documenting, hey, what do you got to do for a procedure? This one requires you to set this up, do an alignment, do all that, package all that together and charge a flat fee on it. Cool, $450 sounds right to do an alignment, to do a static calibration and a test drive and clear codes. That sounds about right. A lot of you guys are charging more depending on your market area and what the rates are like and the competition in the area. If you're in an area where the closest place to get an ADAS calibration is 45 minutes away to the nearest dealership, I don't know, but you kind of got that market on lock there. All you simply got to do is open up your doors and get those tools. All righty. Additional questions here. Does the manufacturer call out, sir, in service information the need for ADAS calibrations? That is a great question there. So the manufacturer does state them, but unfortunately, as I was mentioning earlier with the headlamp, it's going to say, step 1, remove bumper, see bumper removal. Step 2, remove the 10, the 10, the 10 in the clip. Headlamp's going to come out. Step 3, put the new one in. But, it doesn't tell you exactly what's included with the bumper. So you may have to go into bumper, R&I bumper, start exploring, start playing Where's Waldo. It will come up, but if there's a radar module on the bumper, you just may have to surf around a little bit and actually find it. If some of you guys have all data, go into library requests. You're going to see that at the top of the screen. Go in there and actually check to see if there's going to be a message them saying, I need to find when to calibrate on a certain procedure. They'll send you the information that you need. Just provide them good information to get a hold of you at. That's a great question from Barton there. Would love some input on vehicle lift kits and calibrations. Yeah, as far as the input goes on that, I know some independents have ran their studies and they say, oh, we lifted this vehicle and this and that. And look, I'm going to be very, very simple and short here. If you have a clipboard and you have a camera behind that clipboard at a certain height, you're going to see that it could only pick up a certain range of view. Once you lift that clipboard is now hiding a lot more in the plane of sight. So a lot of these independent studies, they say, no, it works good afterwards. It does. But what happens when you get micro vehicles in front of a camera? Micro vehicle that can't see over a squatted truck. And then once you start allowing the floodgates to open up to, yeah, we can do lifted vehicles. Now you're going to start picking and choosing what kind of lifts are we talking about? Leveling kits? Are we talking about full suspension lifts? Are we talking about a Carolina Squad or one of those, silly cars, just do the little bumper twerk on them? The possibilities are endless. So just, take it with a grain of salt. I don't really condone for lifted vehicles simply because when the hood comes up and that's acting as your clipboard there and your camera's behind there, your hood's going to cover a lot more when that goes up in the air and it's blocking your plane of sight there. So, don't take it from me. Try that experiment yourself. Get a camera, put it on your cell phone, or get your cell phone, put it on a clipboard, raise that clipboard about 4 inches, which is typically about what you get off of a 2-inch lift and oversized tires. See where you're at. See how much it hides. You may block pedestrians that are kind of crossing across the front of the vehicle, and your pedestrian detection system might not work properly anymore. So again, not knocking those independent search results or studies that have been carried out, but it is one of those things where I kind of I approach it with a grain of salt and I approach it very cautiously. Remember, if someone's trying to sell a lift kit, there's a reason why that study came out. Bits of service info. Yes, I have seen service info call out for steering column replacements. Typically, when you're doing a steering column replacement, you will have to do some sort of calibration there. No, you may just have to do a steering angle reset. And if the specific brand or manufacturer is calling out for a calibration procedure after steering angle reset, that may be something that just may have to be sought after in that specific brand of vehicle. Now, before I get too carried away, one of the things I want to bring up is it's part of our master series. We have VW electric vehicles and Audi e-tron presented by Anthony Comley. That's going to be coming up on April 4th. And then we have a BMW webinar relating to electric vehicles and additional technologies. And that's going to be May 2nd. That one's going to be presented by Brandon Matthews. Both those guys, full of knowledge. They'll probably do a better job than I did on this. But for the most part, I'm going to be looking forward to watching those guys as far as that new technology is on the e-tron. It's a nice little vehicle all upon itself, and very, very interested in learning about that one. So you'll see me in the chats on that one. All righty. Is there any way to mitigate? That is a great question there. Is there any way to mitigate any environmental issues when doing radar calibration? I have a lot of metal areas in my shop. So look, almost all these repair procedures, when you're doing a static service, they're going to tell you, mind your environment. Say, hey, you know, they want no metal objects between this space and that space and this space. If you're dealing with the lift that's just in a position where you can't move it and that's your only clear space, I would say invest a lot into radar absorbent material. It's not the best way to do it, but it's a way to get around it. So you may have to go into radar absorbent material and just block the height that it says. It may say up to 13 feet. So you may have to go in there and block that out. I know Hondas are very sensitive with nothing in front of them, and they sometimes require up to 10 meters of clear space in front. So keep that in mind. You're going to have a lot of space requirements when you're starting to get into statics there. But that is a very, very great question there. Oh, and also, can you calibrate a windshield camera at night? Environments for cameras. That is a very, very great question. Typically, no. I've even gotten into some situations where the sun's going down and I got a glare going sideways. We're about a mile from the water here, so sunsets here are very beautiful, and I'm not rubbing that in anybody's face. But sunsets, they're very, very glary, so they'll cast the glare of the sun going sideways across the windshield, and I even struggle at that sometimes. So environmental conditions are a must. So just keep that in mind. Remember, I did that calibration on that Ford Edge that I did earlier in the video. And one of the things I noticed is I did it twice later on in the day. It started taking longer and longer. That's as the day was getting later and later. And I started getting more sunlight from the west just shining sideways on that windshield. Actually, that was around sunset, actually, when I did that 6-minute calibration on it. It was starting to take longer and longer. So keep that in mind. But that's also another very, very great question there. Can a ROB prevent a calibration from being performed? Toyota specifically, that is a very, very great question. So ROB faults can disrupt the system. I've seen actually, now this is actually something very, very interesting. I get in there to clear ROB faults on a vehicle that has 40,000 miles, and I'm just throwing out a metaphorical number, but it's on the 2700th key cycle. And I get in there, and I'm still seeing key cycles with ROB faults from key cycle 1, key cycle 3, key cycle 4, and we all know that's from manufacturing. So I guess the manufacturer's saying, do as I say, not as I do. So just kind of keep that in mind. Yes, the ROB faults can cause disruption in these systems, so always very important. Go in and clear out those ROB faults. They may be causing some chaos later on down the road, and quite frankly, you just don't want to be the guy that's caught, doing a radar calibration. Later on, it strikes a motorcyclist, and even though maybe the system is not designed to detect motorcyclists, customers still come back and says you're the last one to touch it, and lo and behold, you didn't clear out ROB faults. So just one of those things to really just kind of look into. Okay. And again, before any of you guys say, well, that's why I'm not going to touch safety components, you're already doing that. If you're doing brakes, if you're doing suspension, if you're doing anything other that affects the components that relate to these systems, you're already touching these safety components or the family of components that affect these systems. But that was a very great question on the ROB faults. Is the Drive Pro the only Opus tool that does ADAS? Will the new Cardac Pro have ADAS functionality? No, Tracy. We actually have a lot of ADAS features in some of the other tools as well. We have a DriveSafe tool that actually has an ADAS suite on it. That one operates a little differently than a mechanical tool. It's designed more for collision shops. But what it does have, it has calibration requirements on there. It has what targets to use. It has when to calibrate. It has this information on there. So for some of you mechanical guys that may be doing collision services, that may be a tool for you guys to add to your arsenal. So just keep in mind, there are options there for you if you're doing hybrid repairs. But that is a very, very great question, Tracy. I do appreciate that. And yes, they will all be able to do ADAS services. The Cardac Pro, however, I don't believe if the interface on that one's going to allow you to do it. You may be able to use it as a pass-through for other OE licenses. I know you could request help, and they can actually guide that support request into the right field for ADAS support as well too. But as far as commanding it yourself off of the ADAS, the Cardac Pro, I don't believe you're going to be able to get it off of that one, simply because the screen's going to be very small on it. Is there a labor guide for calculating pricing for clients? That question may have came in after I explained it, but I will explain it again. And to answer your question, no, there is no labor guide. Some systems, some estimating systems are now starting to incorporate an hour for calibration. It's far from that. But you know, if some people are going to hold you to that hour, as I mentioned before, try to set up your own diagnostic ADAS labor rate. You know, different set of tools, different set of guidelines, different training, different licensing. Everything's going to be a little different, but you're diving into it. So it's a different investment. Most of you guys already have a mechanical labor rate and an electrical labor rate. So just keep in mind, you are able to do that and set your own rate for different services. A la carte services also work as well. So if you're doing statics, if you're doing dynamics, dynamic procedures only require driving and an alignment, we charge this much. If it doesn't require an alignment, we charge this much. Don't undersell yourself. If I'm not mistaken, the last time I searched for a blind spot calibration on a Lexus GS350, I believe it was a 2018 GS350, the dealership quoted me $630 to do that procedure. So don't go out there and say, I'm going to charge $100 for this, because you're going to undersell yourself and you're not going to get your ROI on the investment on it. So your return on investment is always going to be crucial to that. Just because the scan tool or a socket costs you $10 to remove all the tents to disassemble an entire Toyota doesn't mean that you shortchange your labor on that because the socket only costs you $6 from Schmarber Freight. You know, just keep in mind, you know, your tools themselves are not going to dictate exactly how you charge. So the labor investment, the training, everything, that's all going to go right into it. But that is a very, very great question, Bill. All righty. Let me see. Let me go back to the chat here. All righty. Well, looks like a lot of people may have signed off already, and everybody's starting to sign off there. But thank you, everybody that's still here with us. If you have any questions, feel free to send them our way. We're here for you guys. Our support department is here to help you guys out. For those of you guys that are back east and it's late for you guys, cheers. You know, if you got a whiskey in your cup or a nice coffee while you're watching this, have one for me. So I'll have one for you guys as well tonight. So thank you again. Everybody have a great night, and I look forward to sharing more of these webinars. We're going to have more for collision services. We're going to have more for additional services, static calibrations, you name it. They're going to be coming right up for you guys. So just keep tuned, stay tuned, and you'll see those ads come out for them. So thank you again, everybody. Have a great night.